My mother's voice on the phone was as cold and sterile as a surgeon's scalpel. It was Thanksgiving morning. I was in my garage, wrestling with a seized bolt on a vintage pickup. The scent of rust penetrant and old gasoline hung in the air. When my phone vibrated on the workbench, I wiped my grease-blackened hands on a rag and answered, expecting to hear her ask if I was bringing the pecan pie or the sweet potato casserole. "Alexandra," she began. There was no warmth, no greeting. Her tone was tight, like a wire stretched to its breaking point. "We've had a change of plans. It's probably best if you don't come over today." I felt the wrench in my hand go slick. My knuckles were already white, but they seemed to drain of all color. "What? Why?" "Olivia's new boyfriend is coming," she explained, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. "We just want her to make a good first impression, and we don't want any awkwardness." The line went silent, but she didn't hang up. She was waiting for me to absorb the blow. She wasn't apologizing. She was informing me of a business decision. I had been deemed a social liability. I looked down at my steel-toed boots, scuffed and worn from a decade of hard labor. I looked at the network of fine scars and permanent stains on my hands. To them, I wasn't their daughter. I was a potential problem, a smudge on their perfectly curated family portrait. I stood there, surrounded by the quiet hum of my tools. And in that moment, I understood a painful, simple truth. The people who are supposed to hold you closest are often the ones who hold you at arm's length. Before we get into what happened next, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to see how far this story goes. To grasp how my own mother could so casually amputate me from a family holiday, you need to understand the environment I was raised in. It was a house, but we all knew it was a showroom, a pristine colonial in a manicured suburb of Chicago, where the carpets were a shade of white that seemed to actively resent foot traffic. The walls were pale ivory, and the furniture was formal and uninviting, wrapped in fabrics that dared you to get comfortable. It was a beautiful, lifeless space, and I was the one living thing that never quite matched the decor. My mother, Catherine, was the curator of this museum. Her entire existence revolved around perception. Life wasn't something to be experienced, but something to be presented. She arranged her family like we were items in a display case, each one polished and placed just so. We were expected to be perfect, to smile on cue, and above all, to never, ever cause a scene. Then there was my sister, Olivia. Olivia was born for the spotlight. She was the showpiece. With her honey blonde hair, her laugh that tinkled like a delicate bell, and a savant-like ability to charm every adult she met, she was everything my mother dreamed of. At 10, she was posing for family photos like a seasoned model. By 12, she was the star of the school play. In high school, she was the homecoming queen, the girl every boy desired and every girl envied. And then there was me. Alex. I was the shadow. My hair was a dark, unruly mess I usually wrangled into a bun. My knees were perpetually scraped. My nails were always short and practical. I didn't glide. I stomped. I had no interest in ballet recitals. I was fascinated by taking apart old clocks and radios to see their guts. I'll never forget when I was 8. My father, Richard, brought home a beautiful antique music box. While Olivia was in the living room practicing her ballet positions with perfect form, I was tucked away in the den with a small screwdriver, carefully removing the tiny screws from the bottom of the box. I just wanted to see the comb, the pins on the cylinder. I wanted to understand the magic that made the melody. My mother found me. She didn't ask what I was doing. She didn't see curiosity. she saw destruction. "Alexandra!" she gasped, her hand flying to her chest as if I'd just smashed a family heirloom. "Look at what you've done. Why must you always be taking things apart? Your sister is creating art. You're just making a mess." That became the story of us. Olivia created beauty. Alex made messes. As we grew older, that small difference became a vast chasm. Olivia went to summer camps for the arts. I got detention for getting into a fight with a kid who was throwing rocks at a stray cat. Olivia got effortless A's in literature. I barely passed English, but was at the top of my class in physics and auto shop. The favoritism wasn't just present. It was the foundation of our family. On Christmas morning, Olivia's gifts would be a mountain wrapped in shimmering silver paper with intricate handmade bows. Mine were wrapped in plain red paper, mostly containing things my mother deemed I needed to be more presentable. A gift card for a haircut with a note that said, "Let's finally do something about that mop." New jeans, because mine were always getting grease stains. For her 18th birthday, Olivia was given a brand new SUV. It was perfect for her, my parents said. She needed it for her pre-law internships. I didn't get a car. I got a stern talk. "We can't just buy 2 cars, Alex," my father told me, not looking up from his newspaper. "Besides, Olivia has a certain image to maintain for her future career. You can take the train to that trade school of yours." I didn't fight it. I never did. I just learned to swallow the bitterness and nod. But the moment that truly fractured something inside me happened when I was 19. I'd spent my entire summer building a go-kart from scratch, using a salvaged engine from a junked lawnmower and parts I'd scrounged from the scrapyard. I welded the frame. I tuned the engine. I painted it a defiant racing green. I was immensely proud. I convinced my father to come out to the garage. I just wanted him to see it. I wanted him just once to say, "Wow, Alex, you built this. You're clever." He stared at the go-kart. He glanced at my hands, which were ingrained with grease. He saw a smudge of dirt on my cheek. He let out a long, weary sigh. "You're good with your hands, Alex," he said, patting my shoulder dismissively. "But it's not a real skill. It's a hobby. Olivia is going to be a lawyer. She has a career. You have grease. Good with your hands, not a real skill." Those words became the soundtrack to my existence in that house. I stopped trying to show them my projects after that. I stopped trying to explain that a perfectly tuned engine has its own kind of music. I stopped hoping they would see the art in breathing life back into discarded metal. I moved out the week after I finished my vocational program. I didn't bother with a 4-year college. I certainly didn't ask for their financial help. I found a job at a local garage starting at the bottom, sweeping floors and doing oil changes. My mother was audibly relieved. "It's for the best," I overheard her telling a neighbor. "Alex has always been so independent. She prefers a simpler life." The translation was clear. Alex is our failure, and we're glad she's out of sight. Olivia went to a prestigious university. She joined the best sorority. Her social media was a curated gallery of her perfect life. Glamorous parties, handsome boyfriends, and prestigious internships. My parents liked and commented on every single photo. "So proud. Our beautiful, brilliant girl." I posted one picture just once. It was me, holding up my master technician certification. I was grinning, wearing my blue work uniform, standing in front of a car lift. My mother sent me a private message almost immediately. "Alexandra, could you please remove that? The uniform is very unflattering, and you look rather grimy." I deleted the post. I learned to exist in the margins of their lives. I was the supporting character with no lines. I'd show up for major holidays, sit at the far end of the table, and listen to them gush about Olivia's latest triumph. I'd listen to them discuss the new condo they helped her buy, the vacations I wasn't invited on. "We figured you'd be too busy with the shop," my mother would say with a dismissive wave of her hand. "You know, with all the dirt and oil." They didn't despise me. In a way, I wish they had. Despise is a powerful emotion. It means you see the person. No, what they felt for me was indifference. I was a chore, a box to be checked. Daughter number 2, accounted for. So when that call came on Thanksgiving morning, the one telling me to stay away, it shouldn't have been a shock. I had been in training for this kind of rejection for 30 years. I had spent my life as the before picture to Olivia's after, but it still stung. It stung because no matter how old you get, no matter how thick the calluses on your hands and your heart, there's a small part of you that just wants your mom to look at you and be proud. I looked around my quiet apartment that morning before heading to the shop. I saw the conspicuous absence of family photos. I saw the quiet order of a life lived alone. I had built a life that was functional, durable, and completely devoid of the people who gave me life. They wanted me gone. Fine. I was an expert at being invisible. While my family was busy polishing their public image, I was busy building an empire. They saw grease and grime. I saw independence. After leaving their house, I worked relentlessly. I lived on instant noodles in a tiny apartment above a laundromat. I saved every penny that didn't go toward rent or basic survival. While Olivia was attending mixers and networking events funded by my parents, I was buying tools. A real mechanic knows that your tools are your partners. You don't skimp. I invested in the best: Snap-on wrenches, a state-of-the-art diagnostic rig, and eventually a heavy-duty hydraulic lift. 6 years ago, I used every cent I had to buy a dilapidated garage on the industrial side of town. It was a wreck. The roof leaked and the roll-up door was rusted half shut, but it was all mine. I named it Pierce Performance, my last name. I was determined to make it stand for something. I wanted Pierce to mean integrity and craftsmanship, not just pristine white carpets and hollow smiles. My days began at dawn. I loved the shop in the early morning light. It was cold and smelled of rubber, antifreeze, and potential. I'd flick on the overhead fluorescent lights, listen to their familiar hum, and feel a sense of peace that had always eluded me in my parents' home. Here, everything was logical. If an engine didn't work, there was a reason: a frayed wire, a cracked head gasket, a clogged fuel injector. You could diagnose the problem, fix it, and it would run. Cars were honest. People were the real puzzle. I hired Riley about a year ago. She was a 17-year-old with spiky blue hair and a defiant attitude, but she was sharp as a tack and reminded me so much of myself. She came in looking for a job, admitting her parents wanted her to be a dental hygienist, but she was obsessed with cars. I gave her a shot. "Listen to me," I told her on her first day. "You respect the tools, you respect the clients, and you never, ever let anyone make you feel like you don't belong in this space." Riley started looking at me like I was some kind of superhero. It was a strange feeling, being admired. I was so used to being a disappointment. My other regular was Mr. Henderson, my elderly neighbor. He was a retired mailman who lived in the small house next to the shop. He'd bring me coffee in the mornings and a sandwich in the afternoons. "You're working too hard, Alex," he'd grumble. "You need to eat, Mr." Henderson knew more about my daily struggles and triumphs than my own father. He knew I was saving for a new welding machine. He knew my lower back ached from leaning over engine bays all day. He knew I was lonely, even though I never said the word. "Are your folks coming by for the holidays?" he asked me once. "No, Mr. Henderson," I said, torquing a lug nut. "They're busy. They're lost," he huffed. "They've got a diamond and they're treating it like a piece of gravel." That was my life. Small, gritty, but real. Then came the Mustang. It was a 1969 Mach 1, a true legend. I found it rotting in a barn in rural Wisconsin. The frame was rusted, the engine was gone, and the interior had been turned into a home for a family of raccoons. Anyone else would have called it scrap. I saw a sleeping giant. I bought it for a song. For the next 6 months, it became my singular focus. During the day, I fixed family sedans and delivery vans. But at night, the shop was all about the Mustang. I stripped it down to its bare metal skeleton. I spent weeks sanding away every last speck of rust. I sourced a period-correct 428 Cobra Jet engine and rebuilt it piece by piece. I wanted it to be flawless. This wasn't just a car, it was my rebuttal. My father said I wasn't skilled, that I just fixed junk. I was going to create something undeniably beautiful. I painted it a deep raven black, so polished it looked like a pool of liquid night. The moment of truth came late one Tuesday. I slid into the restored driver's seat, took a deep breath, and turned the key. The engine didn't just start, it exploded to life with a ferocious, earth-shaking roar. The whole garage seemed to vibrate. I gripped the wooden steering wheel, and for the first time in a long time, I felt tears welling in my eyes. I did this. My hands, my mind, my sweat. Riley recorded a video of the first startup on her phone, circling the car, capturing the flawless paint, the immaculate engine, and me, sitting there with a streak of grease on my forehead, grinning like a fool. She posted it on a popular online car forum. "The Phoenix is breathing. 6 months of work in 60 seconds, she wrote. I didn't think anything of it. I went home and collapsed into bed. I woke up to my phone buzzing itself off the nightstand. The video had gone viral. It had 1 million views. The comments were a flood of awe. Who is this woman? She's an artist. That paint job is pure glass. Finally, a restorer who respects the classics. I sat in my small kitchen reading the words of strangers. They were calling me talented. They were calling me a genius. These strangers saw me. On an impulse, I sent the link to my family's group chat. I couldn't stop myself. I wanted them to see. I wanted my father to see the junk I'd created. "Hey, check out the project I just finished," I typed. I waited and waited. An hour later, my mother replied, "That's nice, dear. Did you see Olivia's news? She just passed the bar exam." My father didn't respond at all. Olivia sent a single thumbs-up emoji, that was all. I set my phone down. The validation of 1 million strangers felt hollow when the 3 people I shared DNA with couldn't be bothered. But looking back, that was the first tremor before the earthquake. The world was telling me I was valuable. My family was telling me I was worthless. The 2 realities were at war in my head. I kept working. My business exploded. Collectors started calling. "Are you the woman with the black Mach 1?" they'd ask. "Yes," I'd reply. "I'm Alex Pierce." I had a waiting list months long. I had to hire another mechanic just to handle the routine jobs. I was becoming a genuine success. Not just good with my hands, but a recognized talent in my field. And my family had no idea, or they didn't care to know. When I'd visit for obligatory dinners, the condescension was unchanged. "Are you managing to pay your bills, Alex?" my father would ask, trying to slip me a $50 bill. I was earning more in a week than he made in a month, but I just took the money. Correcting him felt like a waste of breath. It felt like we were speaking 2 different languages. I was building a kingdom of steel and horsepower, and they still saw a girl in dirty overalls who broke things. So when Thanksgiving came around, I wasn't desperate for their approval. I wasn't looking for their money. I was just foolishly looking for a connection. I wanted to sit at that table. I wanted to be part of something. I had even bought a new dress. I had spent 3 days scrubbing my hands with industrial-strength soap to get them perfectly clean. I was going to play their game, just one more time. Then the phone rang. "We don't want any awkwardness." The line went dead in my heart, and with it, the last frayed thread of my hope. I stood in the middle of my shop, surrounded by my work, my success, and my profound solitude. I looked at the Mustang, gleaming under the shop lights. It was powerful. It was beautiful. It was brought back from the dead. And looking at that car, I realized I had been too. I didn't need a seat at a table where I was seen as a stain. I didn't need to break bread with people who found my life's passion to be an embarrassment. I was Alex Pierce. I fixed broken things. But that day, I finally accepted there was one thing I couldn't fix: them. And for the first time, I decided to stop trying. After my mother delivered her verdict and the line went dead, I didn't smash my phone. I didn't let out a primal scream. In the movies, the rejected daughter crumbles into a heap of tears. I just stood there. The garage was silent, save for the low hum of the space heater. Outside, the November wind rattled the large metal door, a lonely sound. I looked at the phone in my hand, its screen dark. It was just an object. It couldn't wound me. But the words that had come through it felt like a physical blow, a heavy pressure on my chest. "We don't want you embarrassing her." That was the phrase that kept replaying in my mind. Embarrassing. I wasn't just an inconvenience, I was a liability. To my mother, I was the cheap wine she was hiding in the back of the cabinet before the important guests arrived. So she had simply decided not to serve any wine at all. I took a slow, deep breath. The shop air was sharp with the smell of solvent, a smell I associated with progress and truth. I placed the phone gently on my workbench. "Okay," I said to the empty room. My voice was quiet, but it didn't tremble. "Okay." I didn't go back to my apartment. I couldn't face the silence of my empty living room. Instead, I stayed at the shop. I decided to work. Cleaning tools is a meditative ritual for a mechanic. It's about more than just organization. It's a form of respect for your craft. I grabbed a soft rag and a can of cleaner and started with my socket set. I picked up each one, from the smallest to the largest, and wiped it down until the chrome gleamed. With each repetitive motion, I pictured them. Right now, my mother would be directing the placement of the fine china, the plates with the platinum trim we were never allowed to use as kids. She'd be folding linen napkins into some elaborate shape she saw on a blog. My father would be in the living room, wearing a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent, pouring expensive wine and glancing at his watch, awaiting the arrival of Olivia's new beau. And Olivia, she'd be in her old room perfecting her makeup, rehearsing her charming anecdotes in the mirror, ready for her performance as the perfect daughter with the perfect life. They were a cast in a play. And for the first time in 30 years, I wasn't just off stage. I was in a different city. I moved on to my wrenches, scrubbing the grease from the textured handles. My hands knew the work, and as they moved, I realized I wasn't crying. I touched my cheek. It was dry. Usually, their dismissals left me feeling small and hollow, like that little girl with the music box, being told she was a destroyer. But this time was different. The primary emotion wasn't sadness. It was a cold, sharp clarity. It was like a blurry photograph finally snapping into focus. They did not want me there. It wasn't about a lack of space or a misunderstanding. It was an active choice. They preferred an empty chair to my presence. My gaze fell on the '69 Mustang in the corner. Its black paint was a mirror. It was magnificent. I had rescued that car from a slow death. I had made it whole again. And in that moment, I realized I had been trying to do the same thing with my family. I thought if I just worked harder, became more successful, proved my worth, I could fix us. I thought I could sand away their criticism, rebuild the engine of their affection. But families aren't machines. You can't fix someone who sees no fault in themselves. You can't repair a connection when the other party is holding a sledgehammer. I wiped down the last tool and placed it neatly in its drawer. The metallic click was a sound of finality. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 3 p.m. They'd be eating by now. My father would be carving the turkey. They'd be going around the table, listing the things they were thankful for. I wondered if my name would even be a passing thought. "Where's Alex?" the new boyfriend might ask. Oh, she had to work. My mother would lie smoothly. She's so dedicated to that little garage of hers. I walked over to the small fridge in my office and pulled out a soda and a sandwich Mr. Henderson had brought over yesterday. I sat on the solid fender of the Mustang. The metal was cool against my legs. I unwrapped the sandwich. I took a bite. I took a long sip of my drink. I swung my boots, letting them tap softly against the tire. I was alone on Thanksgiving, eating day-old leftovers in a cold garage. But as I sat there, I felt a strange lightness in my chest, the familiar knot of anxiety that always formed before a family gathering was gone. I didn't have to monitor my words. I didn't have to worry if my dress was fancy enough. I didn't have to brace myself for my mother's backhanded compliments or my father's comparisons of my life to Olivia's. I was safe. I took another bite of the sandwich. It was the most satisfying meal I'd had in a long time. I stayed at the shop late into the night, listening to old rock music on the radio, loud and unapologetic. I reorganized my inventory. I swept every corner. When I finally drove home, the streets were deserted. Everyone was tucked away in their homes, full of food and family. I walked into my dark apartment, went to the window and looked out at the quiet street. "I'm done," I whispered to my reflection in the glass. It wasn't an angry declaration. It was a simple statement of fact. I was done auditioning for a part I was never cast in. I was done begging for their approval. I slept that night without dreams, a deep, uninterrupted peace. The next morning was Black Friday. I had planned to take the day off. I was in my apartment, wearing an old flannel shirt and fuzzy socks, nursing a cup of coffee. It was just after 8 a.m. The world was still. Then came the banging. Bam! 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 It wasn't a knock. It was an assault on my front door. It sounded urgent and angry. I put my mug down, puzzled. I wasn't expecting anyone. Delivery drivers used the buzzer. I walked to the door and, without thinking to check the peephole, I unlocked and opened it. The frigid morning air hit me, but it was nothing compared to the glacial wall of fury on my doorstep. It was the entire cast. My mother, Catherine, was front and center, wrapped in an expensive camel hair coat. Her face was blotchy with rage. My father, Richard, stood behind her, arms crossed, his expression a familiar cocktail of disappointment and annoyance. Olivia was there too, looking like a winter fashion model in a white coat and beanie, her eyes rolling the moment she saw my pajamas. And beside her stood a man I'd never seen, tall, well-dressed in a tailored wool coat. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were sharp. This must be him. This must be Leo. I stood there, holding the doorknob, my messy bun probably falling apart. "Mom," I said, "what's going on?" My mother bypassed any greeting. She stepped forward, crowding me. "How could you?" she hissed, her voice venomous. I was genuinely lost. How could I? What? "Don't you dare play dumb with me, Alexandra," she spat. "We asked you specifically to give us one peaceful day. One. And what do? You find a way to ruin it anyway." I looked to my father for an explanation. He just shook his head. "This is a new low, Alex, even for you." "I don't understand," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I didn't come. I stayed at the shop all day. I didn't do anything." "Oh, stop it," Olivia chimed in, her voice dripping with scorn. "Leo's cousin saw your post. She texted him asking why you weren't with us. It made us all look like horrible people." I stared at them, my mind racing. My post? I hadn't posted anything. "You went online and told everyone we disinvited you," my mother accused, her hands gesturing wildly. "You had to make it all about you, didn't you? You just couldn't stand not being the center of attention, so you played the victim." A dark, humorless laugh started to bubble in my throat. They had kicked me out, and now they were furious because they thought I had told people, which made them look bad. Their anger wasn't about hurting me. It was about the potential tarnish on their reputation. "I didn't tell anyone," I said, my voice cold. "I cleaned my garage and ate a sandwich. If people think you're horrible, maybe it's because you acted horribly." My father's face turned a dangerous shade of red. "You will not speak to your mother that way. We came here for you to fix this, Alexandra. We expect an apology, and you need to post something saying you were sick or had to work. You need to correct the record, fix this. That was always my role. Fix the car, fix the dishwasher, fix their public image." "No," I said. The single word landed in the frosty air with the weight of an anvil. "Excuse me," my mother whispered, as if she couldn't have heard me correctly. "I said no," I repeated louder this time. "I will not lie for you." They all erupted at once. My mother called me ungrateful. Olivia whined about how embarrassing this all was. My father launched into a lecture about family loyalty. It was just noise, a tidal wave of their self-pity and rage. I wanted to slam the door in their faces, but then a new voice cut through the noise. It wasn't loud, but it was clear and resonant. "Hold on." Everyone stopped. We all turned to the man in the back. Leo. He hadn't spoken a word. He'd just been observing, his eyes moving between me and my family. He was looking at me, but not at my pajamas or my messy hair. He was studying my face, my posture. He stepped forward, moving past Olivia as if she wasn't there, and came right to the doorway. "You're Alexandra Pierce," he said. It was a statement, not a question. "Yeah, so what?" I said defensively. He glanced down at my hands, which were still gripping the door. He noticed the calluses, the faint, indelible lines of grease under my nails. Then he met my eyes again. A look of dawning comprehension spread across his face. It wasn't judgment, it was awe. "You're the Alexandra Pierce," he said, his voice different now. "The one with the 69 Mach 1, the Raven Black one, the Phoenix Project." I was speechless. "Yes, that's my car." Leo let out a slow breath, a smile of disbelief touching his lips. "I've been following that entire build thread online for months. I saw the video of the first startup. That car is a masterpiece." He turned to a stunned Olivia. "Olivia," he said, gesturing at me. "This is your sister? You told me she just worked in a garage." Olivia's face went white. She does fix cars. It's basically the same thing." "What's the big deal?" "The big deal," Leo said, his eyes locking back on me with pure, unadulterated respect, "is that your sister is a legend. That Mach 1 is one of the most famous restoration projects on the internet right now. I showed you the video last week, remember? I said, 'Look at what this artist built.' You just rolled your eyes. My mother, sensing the shift in power, tried to regain control with a brittle, forced laugh. "Oh, Leo, don't be so dramatic. Alex just tinkers. It's a messy little hobby. We're here to talk about her attitude, not her cars." Leo didn't even look at her. He was still focused on me. "It's not a hobby," he said quietly. "She's one of the most respected builders in the Midwest. People in the classic car world talk about her. They say she has a gift." He extended a hand toward me. "I'm Leo. I am so sorry about all of this. I had no idea. If I'd known you were the one they left out, I would have come and picked you up myself." I stared at his outstretched hand. It was clean, an office worker's hand, but his grip, when I shook it, was firm. "Alex," I said. The silence on my porch was absolute. My family was frozen. For 30 years they had defined my narrative. I was the failure, the grease monkey, the disappointment. And now, this stranger, this successful, handsome man they were so desperate to impress, was standing on my doorstep looking at me like I was a rock star. Olivia finally broke, her voice shrill. "Leo, why are you being so nice to her? She ruined our holiday." Leo dropped my hand and turned to face her, his expression hardening. "She didn't ruin anything, Olivia. She wasn't even there. You guys painted a picture of her as some unstable black sheep. You failed to mention she was brilliant. My mother, ever the strategist, saw her prize catch slipping away. She put on her sweetest, most saccharine smile. 'Well, isn't this lovely?' she cooed. 'It's wonderful that you two have a shared interest, but we really must address the family issue at hand. Alexandra, since we're all here, we need to discuss your responsibilities.' I narrowed my eyes. Responsibilities? Yes, my father grunted, seizing the new angle. Since you apparently have such a successful business, we have a couple of situations. The roof on the house has a leak, and Olivia needs some help with the down payment on her new condo. Family helps family, Alex. The sheer audacity of it left me breathless. 5 minutes ago, I was an embarrassment. Now that they knew I had money, I was family again. I looked at Leo. He was staring at them with an expression of dawning horror. He was seeing the real them. I looked back at my mother. Family helps family. I repeated her words. Of course, she said, her smile widening. It was the smile of a predator closing in. The quiet calm from the night before settled over me again. No, I said. It was just one word spoken softly, but it hit them like a physical blow. The word no hung in the cold air between us. My mother's face slackened in disbelief. What did you say? I said no, I repeated, my voice as solid as forged steel. I'm not giving you money for a roof, and I'm not paying for Olivia's condo. But we're your family, my mother sputtered, the panic showing through the cracks in her composure. You have a successful business. Leo just said so. You have the money. Why would you be so selfish? It's not selfishness, I said. It's a boundary. Olivia lunged forward, her face contorted with rage. You are so unbelievably selfish. You always have been. Just because you can fix some stupid old car, you think you're better than us? You're still just a mechanic, Alex. You'll always be a grease monkey. Leo turned on her, his voice sharp. Olivia, that's enough. Why? She shrieked at him. It's the truth. She smells like gasoline. She's an embarrassment. Leo just shook his head slowly. No, she's a creator. I've admired her work from a distance for almost a year, and frankly, the only embarrassing thing here is the way you're all treating her. Olivia's jaw dropped. She looked from Leo to me, her mind failing to compute. For the first time in her charmed life, the world wasn't bending to her will. The script had been torn up. My mother saw the impending disaster. She tried to salvage the situation. That's very sweet, Leo, she said, her voice strained. It's nice that you appreciate her, Craft. But we're talking about reality. Alexandra, your father and I supported you for years. We put a roof over your head. We raised you. She crossed her arms, playing her ace, the guilt card. We gave you everything, she continued, her voice rising. And the one time we asked for a little help, you slammed the door in our faces after all we've done for you. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had cut me out of her life yesterday, without a second thought. I looked at the man who had dismissed my life's passion as a worthless hobby. I remembered a lifetime of being second best, of being less than. You didn't give me everything, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. What? My father barked. You fed and clothed me because you were legally obligated to, I stated. But you never once supported me. You never came to my shop. You never celebrated a single one of my accomplishments. You only ever call when you want something or to tell me how I'm failing to meet your standards. The wind whipped around the porch, but I felt a fire in my chest. Good for you, Leo murmured under his breath. Olivia's head snapped toward him. Why are you taking her side? She's being horrible to my parents. Because she's right, he said simply. He looked at my mother and father. I was there yesterday when you uninvited her. I heard the call. You didn't say it was about being crowded. You said she was an awkwardness you wanted to avoid, and now you show up on her doorstep demanding money? He let out a dry, humorless laugh. I thought you were a pillar of the community. I thought you were this kind, welcoming family. But this is just cruel. The entire family dynamic imploded in that moment. My mother looked like she might faint. My father looked like he wanted to hit something. Olivia looked like she was about to cry, not from hurt, but from the sheer injustice of losing. My father took a step toward me, his face dark with fury. You listen to me, Alexandra, he snarled. If you turn your back on us now, don't you dare come crawling back when this little business of yours fails. And it will. You always manage to mess things up. I met his gaze without flinching. I saw the fear behind his rage. He was losing control, and it terrified him. I won't, I said, I promise. I turned my attention to Leo. The offer for coffee is still open if you want. The rest of you can get off my property. My mother gasped. You're kicking us out? Yes, I said. I'm uninviting you. I stepped back and began to close the door. My parents, sputtering with indignation, turned and stormed off. Olivia lingered, her eyes pleading with Leo. Leo, she whimpered. Are you coming? Leo looked at her perfectly curated beauty and her deeply ugly soul. Then he looked at me, standing in my worn-out pajamas, messy but real. I think I'll have that coffee, he said to me. Then he looked back at Olivia. I'll call you later. We have to talk. Olivia let out a frustrated scream and ran down the stairs after her parents. I closed the door. The apartment was silent again. But this time, I wasn't alone. Leo didn't stay long. He drank a cup of coffee, asked me about the Mustang's transmission, and then politely excused himself. He had a breakup to handle. He was a good man who had been sold a lie, and he was smart enough to cut his losses. But that confrontation wasn't the end. It was a beginning. A couple of weeks later, I decided to host my own holiday dinner. I didn't book a fancy restaurant. I cleared out the main bay of my garage. I rolled the project cars out into the lot. I scrubbed the concrete floor until it shone under the fluorescent lights. I hung strings of warm, amber-colored lights from the rafters, letting them reflect off the polished surfaces of my tool chests and the chrome of the lifts. It wasn't elegant. It was authentic. It was me. I invited my real family. I invited Riley and her parents. I invited Mr. Henderson. I invited the guys from the auto parts store who always gave me a discount. I invited a few of my favorite clients, the old-timers with classic hot rods, and the young kids just starting out. I even invited a few folks from the homeless shelter where I volunteered to fix their van. It was a motley crew of mechanics, retirees, and outcasts. Leo came too. He brought a pie. He looked more relaxed than I'd ever seen him, dressed in jeans and a flannel shirt. "Place looks great," he said, admiring the warm glow on the cold steel. "Very industrial chic." "It's home," I replied with a smile. We had pizza, 30 large pizzas from the best joint in the city. We had coolers packed with beer and soda. The atmosphere was alive. People were laughing. Mr. Henderson was deep in a debate with Riley about the superiority of American muscle over Japanese tuners. There was no pretense, no judgment. No one cared if you ate with your hands because everyone was. Around 8 p.m., the large bay door rumbled open. I'd left it unlocked. But instead of the chilly night air, my parents walked in. They must have driven by and seen the lights and the cars. They strode in as if they were inspectors. My mother in a fur-trimmed coat, my father in a suit. Olivia trailed behind them, looking cold and miserable. The music faltered. The chatter died. Every eye in the room turned to them. "Alexandra," my mother announced, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "What is all of this? A party? In a garage?" She wrinkled her nose as if she'd smelled something foul. I stood up from my seat on an overturned crate. "It's a dinner, Mom. For my friends." "Friends?" she scoffed, her gaze sweeping over the diverse crowd with disdain. She looked at Mr. Henderson in his faded Christmas sweater and at Riley with her green hair. "These are the people you choose over your own family?" "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "I do." My father stepped forward. "We've been hearing things, Alexandra. People at the country club are talking. They say we're estranged. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for us?" "It's the truth," I said simply. "We demand you stop this foolishness," he ordered. "Apologize to your sister, apologize to your mother, and come home for Christmas and act like a proper daughter." I looked around the room. I saw Mr. Henderson, who brought me coffee every morning. I saw Riley, who looked at me with respect. I saw Leo, who saw my talent. Then I looked at my blood relatives. They seemed so small and petty in the vastness of my world. "I am home," I said, opening my arms to encompass the shop, the tools, the people. "This is my home. These are my people." Leo stepped forward, coming to stand beside me. "I left Olivia," he said calmly to my parents. "I told her last week. But in case there was any ambiguity, we're done." Olivia gasped. "Leo, why?" "Because I'd rather spend my time somewhere real," he said. Then he looked at me and smiled. "Alex built something worth being a part of. You just built a house of mirrors." My mother looked as if she'd been slapped. She scanned the room, expecting someone, anyone, to take her side. But all she saw were the hard, unimpressed stares of working-class people who knew what real respect looked like. No one said a word. They just watched her. For the first time in her life, my mother was in a room where her status meant nothing. In Pierce Performance, you were judged by the work of your hands, not the name on your credit card. "Fine," she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "Stay here in your filth. See if we care." She spun on her heel and marched out. My father shot me one last look of pure contempt and followed. Olivia looked from me to Leo, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Then she turned and ran after them. I watched their car's taillights disappear into the snowy night. Then I turned back to the party. "So," I said, my voice ringing with newfound lightness, "who wants some pie?" A cheer erupted. The music kicked back on. The warmth returned. The snow began to fall an hour later, big, heavy flakes drifting down past the open bay door, blanketing the world in white. The party slowly wound down. People hugged me on their way out. "Proud of you, kid," Mr. Henderson said, patting my arm. "You're the best, boss," Riley said with a grin. Eventually, it was just me and Leo. We sat on the tailgate of my pickup truck, watching the snow. The shop was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full, imbued with the warmth of the evening. "You okay?" he asked. I took a sip of my now warm soda. "Yeah," I said, surprised to find it was the absolute truth. "I am. For so long I thought being cut off from them would destroy me. I thought the guilt would be unbearable. I thought I would feel like an orphan, but I didn't. I felt like I had finally amputated a gangrenous limb, allowing the rest of my body to heal. "They're never going to get it, are they?" I asked quietly. "Probably not," Leo said. "They live in a world where the packaging is more important than the product. You live in the real world." He gestured toward the Mustang, which I'd parked back in its corner. "You know," he said, "restoring a car is a lot like life. You have to strip away all the rust and rot. You have to get rid of the parts that are failing, even if they're original. Then you replace them with something better, something stronger." I smiled. "That's a very mechanical metaphor." "I'm learning," he grinned. I looked out at the snow, which had now completely covered the tire tracks left by my parents' car. The fresh powder was erasing the last evidence of their visit. By morning, it would be as if they were never here. I realized then that family isn't about blood. Blood is just an accident of biology. Family is who shows up. Family is who brings you a sandwich because they know you'll forget to eat. Family is who defends you. Family is who sees all of you, grease stains and all, and thinks you're a masterpiece anyway. I had spent my entire life trying to be the daughter they wanted. I had failed spectacularly. But in doing so, I had succeeded at becoming Alex Pierce. I hopped off the truck. "Come on," I said. "I'll show you how to properly gap a spark plug." Leo laughed. "It's almost midnight." "Best time to work," I said, heading for my tool chest. "It's quiet. It's peaceful. It's honest." As my hand closed around a wrench, I felt a profound sense of peace. I didn't need their validation anymore. I had built my own. I had built my own family. I had built my own life, one bolt, one weld, one act of defiance at a time. If you've ever had to walk away from people to save your own soul, let me tell you something. You didn't lose a family. You found yourself. And that's the most valuable thing you can ever build.